Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Joining me is Professor Ramesh G of IIM Bangalore, and we are going to talk about the Pay Commission committee that has been formed for the next Pay Commission. What should be the parameters they should be looking at? Let's welcome Professor Ramesh. Namaskaram, sir. How are you?
Namaskaram, Sree Iyer, sir, Sree Iyer. I mean, very nice to catch up with you again. I mean, you have been covering a vast range of topics, and this is one small issue that we need to cover, I think.
Thank you, sir. So we're going to jump right into the slide deck because there's quite a bit of information that you've packed in there. I'm going to yield the floor to you. Let's go with the slide deck right now. Here we go. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I mean, whenever we set up this pay commission, people expect that they will also talk about the performance of the officers. Okay. But pay commission, even the very notification will mostly talk about, pay fixing and then parities and then, benchmarking and things like that, but not so much about the performance. In fact, it was in the 6th pay commission, I think they commissioned IIM Ahmedabad to do a study on what should be the performance parameters, how to really measure and how to incentivize. I mean, they even talked about variable compensation and all for various levels, right from secretaries to bottom. Second point I want to make is that the recently Prime Minister announced about next generation reforms, and then he set up 2 committees headed by 𝗪𝗏 and Rajnath Singh ji, and we are expecting something positive from that. But the point is, if you want to take the economy from, let's say, the $4 trillion to $10 trillion and $20 trillion, this bureaucracy cannot take you there. Maybe it can take you, but at a very slow pace. But if you want to really maintain the pace, and then you want to see a very different India, okay, and people are really looking forward to that, then this bureaucratic structure design cannot serve that. That's the main point that I would like to make. And it's also important because every pay commission makes recommendations for next 10 years. Next 10 years, where India will be, how India will be, nobody knows, isn't it? It can be 7, 8, 10, it would have doubled anyway, the GDP. If that be the case, what should be our government looking like and what should be the bureaucracy looking like is very important. So these are 2-3 points I wanted to really start with before I really make this point. And first point is, anyway, it happens once in 10 years. I don't know why. If you look at corporates, maybe it happens every year or at least once in 2 years, And in academics, for example, we get evaluated every 3 years like that. In government, they are kept it 10 years. What's the impact of the 10 years? What happened when you introduce the change? The incremental difference is very high. Last pay commission, for example, 2016, 7th pay, the impact was like 1 lakh crore every year annually, additional 1 lakh crore every year annually, only for central government. Okay, so I don't know why they cannot make it incrementally rather than making a very drastic every 10 years like that. No, it has all-round impact. I mean, central government itself may have like 30 lakh employees and like that. Then you add all the state government employees. Then you add all the PSUs. So they all wait for this pay commission report. Then every state employees will start. Then there'll be strikes, protests, and all these things will keep on happening for next 2 years actually, till finally the pay fixation happens. So people get distracted almost, into these pay fixations and what happens and like that. And generally, any negotiation, even in a startup of $1 million, let's say, when you talk of pay, compensation like that, they'll always talk of performance. What is the next year performance expected? What's the deliverable and things like that? Here, it's totally dealing. Performance is totally dealing from compensation. Now, can you have a system where there's no relationship between performance and compensation? And I mean, I don't consider that. I mean, they call it confidential reports, CRs. They write every year on all the office. I'm talking only about officers. Staff, of course, also matters. Okay. Second, and then finally, like rest of India is asking now because people are, I don't know if you're watching the tweet and then other social media, so many posts on broken roads, so many posts on what's happening in various fields, and then the service levels, and then the public distribution system, healthcare, hospitals, you see sometimes some gory scenes, So and then schools also, the teachers who cannot teach. So these are the sort of scenarios people are really fed up. In this condition, if you are going to come up with a pay commission and say that I'm going to, give a 20% hike, 30% hike, twice the salaries and all, people are really going to ask More important than performance, people are really asking for clean administration. Because people invariably see, even if a tap is not, water is not coming from the tap, people say it's corruption. If road is broken, people say it's corruption. Okay, maybe they associate everything with corruption, and maybe it's true partially also. Yeah, next slide, please. What will be the additional burden on the budget? So normally, what each budget, they're showing the logo because long time back in the 7th Pay Commission, I made a presentation, almost more or less same presentation I made to them, and they liked it, but nothing much really happened on the report when I saw that. What will additional budget on the burden on the budget? So, like I said, last time it was 1 lakh crore. This time it's expected to be maybe 2.5 lakh crore or something like that annually, not just one-time effect or something like that, which is like a lateral shift when that expenditure happens. And this is only about the central government we are talking. Now, if you add up all the state governments and all, it will be really terrific. Now, how will it impact the performance and productivity? It doesn't really impact, but the fact is people are asking. At least sometimes even the Pay Commission is asked to consider that factor. For example, the 6th Pay Commission, they call it fixing factor, that they kept it low because that time GDP growth rate was low, and then we had a lot of meltdown and things like that. That was about 2006 and like that. And then how will it impact public and public perception? Public perception, as I told you, is not at all favorable. Nobody grudges the salary. Even I don't complain about the salary. It's actually low. What is being paid to the senior officers like secretaries, additional secretaries and all. In fact, I told last Pay Commission, pay them 1 crore total package, but have certain notional rental deducted for the houses in Tuklak Road and then Lutyens areas and things like that, But then pay them well. Because the pay what we are paying is really ridiculously low. If you really compare it with the CEOs of corporates like that. Yeah, next please. And then, so yeah, as I said, 32 lakh, employees is what they'll be determining. This is some public figure. I don't know that, how actual the figure is. Still, this is another anomaly. If you look at it, the salary is about 8% of the total expenditure, plus pension is about 18%, let's say 26%, something like that, or at least 20% plus. These are just picked up from various sources and like that. This is something to be considered. In state government, it can be about 40% salary plus pension, which means, Sree Iyer Ji, okay, of the budget that is really revenue that is collected, 40% goes into only paying salaries and pension of the employees, government employees, which means, I want to really, I wouldn't mind even exaggerating the impact to really for people to appreciate what's the problem, okay. Which means 40% of the revenue collected goes to, let's say, if you take Tamil Nadu or Karnataka and all, government employees could be about 6-7 lakhs, let's say. You even multiply with a family 4 lakhs, maybe 30 lakhs people. But the population of Tamil Nadu is about 8 crore, Karnataka is 7 crore. 60% goes to rest of the 7.47 crore or 6.7 crore. And then 40% of the budget goes to, my point is clear, no? What I'm trying to make here. Similarly, look at the central government. Almost 20% plus goes to salary plus pension. This is perfect. This is bound to happen because government is like a service sector. Okay, so salaries will be high. The central theme that I'm asking again, where is the performance? No, that's what the people are really asking here. Okay. Now you take the pay of the guested officers. Okay. It's about 23,000 crore in 2020 or something like somewhere I picked it up. This is from the Department of Expenditure. I'm saying even if you double it, even if you triple the salaries of only the guested officers, that's what I was telling the last Pay Commission. Okay. But ask for a clean government and efficient government, isn't it? Something, you'll be surprised. I was also in government long time. I started my career in government. In government, generally in the CR, what I call as the CR, confidential report, everybody will become outstanding. You won't find anybody, maybe 10% maybe lesser than outstanding. So I used to ask, I did a lot of training program for the civil servants, okay, across services. I used to ask them, if every officer is outstanding, how come government is not outstanding? isn't it? I mean, if every employee of an organization is outstanding, then that company should be a Fortune 500 company, if you ask me. Okay. But it is not, isn't it? I mean, so this is where the anomaly is actually. Okay. Now, the maximum discussion in the pay commission will revolve around this. What will be the fitment factor? That is, if 100 rupees the last pay commission, what should be the base with which you will fix? Let's say the 7th pay fixed it at 2.67 times, that is. And then 6th pay commission, as I mentioned, the logic last time is 1.86. 2016, the FS GDP is good. We are growing, so we can afford them like that. But the point that happens is that between the, let's say, 7th and 8th pay commission, it's not like nothing happens. So DA keeps on happening, isn't it? So the salary would already caught up with most of the level, and they have to just incrementally fix it and fix the base level. So the whole discussion will happen around that. But then shouldn't we ask that when you give that, productivity of the government should improve by, let's say, 20%, 30%, like that. Productivity can be defined. For example, number of employees in railways, postal service, how much the government servants are, ratios, and even like, for example, officer to staff ratio, field to headquarters ratio. There are so many ratios we look at it, isn't it? You can look at all those aspects when you really fix the burden. And expected burden, as I said, is about 2.5 lakh crore from the 8th pay commission, and then 7th pay is about 1 lakh crore or like that. Yeah, please. Now, this is the interesting thing. I mean, in government service, when you join service, you can almost make out who will retire as chief secretary, who will reach the level of secretaries and like that. I can tell you, I mean, I have studied so many private sectors and government sector. You can also tell me, okay, global organizations also. Nowhere you can say that entire batch will progress. It's like cylindrical. Normally organization structure is pyramidal, isn't it?
Pyramidal, yeah, of course.
Exactly, isn't it? Top layer maybe 5% or maybe less than 10%. If you really see very top management, okay, and then will come the control layer and this one, but not here. What I mean is within this, let's say a probationary officer gets elected in bank, okay. Now, let's say 100 people select. Finally, only one chairman makes, and maybe there are 2-3 EDs like that. Similarly, in armies, but not in civil service. Most of them will become additional chief secretaries, additional DGPs, and then secretaries and special secretaries and like that. The entire batch moves. Entire batch gets promoted. It's almost like government is obliged to do that. It's not that, I mean, there's a requirement and there's a need and there are postings and there are retirements, replacements and like that. It's not like that. It's as if like when it is due, government is obliged to promote. That's the sort of logic that happens. You take my own MBA program from IIM. When let's say 400 people clear a MBA program in a year, you can never make out how many of them will make a CEO, how many of them will fall by the wayside, how many of them may reach the middle level like that. That's how it works, isn't it? Even if it's Harvard, that's how it works. But here it's not like that. And IIM guys also pass an exam, CAT exam, and they go through next 2 years of rigorous, exams and qualifications and like that. But here you have one exam. Of course, you've got a probationary period. But then I never seen this structure anywhere. If you have some other idea, you can let me know. An organization.
So what happens then is their rank will be on par with all the other people in the batch, but their responsibilities would not be. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I mean is, let's say 100 IAS officers join in one batch in, let's say 2000. The 100 officers will keep on moving across states also. Next promotion, like that. It's not like when you reach in the middle layer, top layer, of the 100, only 50 will get promoted or 40 will get promoted and like that. Okay. Normally in everywhere, that's what will happen. In bank, for example, when you move from scale 4 to scale 5, scale 5 to scale 6, the numbers will keep coming down. Not like the whole batch will keep getting promoted, isn't it? Here, yes. There may be difference of one not. For example, if somebody is in revenue service, somebody in postal service, whole batch gets promoted, and wherever they are sitting, they'll be upgraded, let's say. Okay, post may get upgraded, or they'll find a job where they can get posted and like that. It's clear now, no? So, more than that, in fact, there is so many services created also. I mean, So this is also another anomaly. So there are services with probably maybe 200, 300 officers. Very difficult to even manage the cadre and like that, But for them also you have to ensure postings, promotions, and everything. And there is a perverse incentive system. I mean, I asked this question, why should a government servant perform? Isn't it? What is the incentive system for him to perform? Excepting, I mean, of course, they have started Mission Karma Yogi and all that. If all of them see themselves as a Karma Yogis, probably they'll contribute. But many of the officers have told me in my programs and whenever I interact with them, that you really take panga if you want to be really effective and you want to be a good collector, you want to be a good SP, you want to be a good director and all that, then you have to unnecessarily upset the apple cart, and you have to necessarily upset the stakeholders. Okay, then only you can be very impactful. Forget even corruption or something like that. I'm talking about even performance efficiencies like that. So there's this is something the government should look at, how to really incentivize the meritorious, how to incentivize performance. Otherwise, the people who are performing are demotivated. And then the thing is, there is no performance centricism. In government, you need a performance centricism. And performance, I'm even saying that I'm not at all talking about corruption or anything. I'm talking about service levels, for example. Citizen centricism. In fact, I don't know, 6th or 7th Pay Commission, because I've been following all these commissions for the last 20 years. They said that the people will evaluate the collector and then the district magistrate. And then that feedback will be considered in promotions and, other factors and like that. But that got dropped. Nothing of that got implemented at all. They wanted her to take a feedback from people, citizens' feedback and all that, which can be got. In fact, I gave a system to Karnataka. I gave a suggestion. There's something called 𝗖𝗓𝗍 Sree Iyer, developed by NIC. It's a beautiful system where desk to desk a file is tracked. So where is the file getting stuck, how much time it took, what's the value addition the guy brought on that file and like that. But then nobody's interested. They can really track the performance based on that. In fact, I did one Six Sigma analysis also. There was a good secretary in Karnataka at that time looking after the Sakala public grievances system. In fact, she's now the chief secretary, and she was very, very active in the, and then she used to take actions also. So like that way, if we have we have the base now, we have the foundation. Like, you'll be surprised to know that probably I can say that government is more digitized than private sector. Every aspect of government is digitized now. You cannot access the government without going through a digital system today. Okay, if you got that, then
aren't files still physical? Aren't files still physical?
File is physical. File is physical. There's a digital system also, but files still more physically. They may even take a printout and then keep it, but it's physical. Okay, they may work on the system, but they may keep a printout and keep the file and like that. And so what I'm saying is that you need to infuse internal competition, like who gets promoted and like that within the batch. And like army, up to certain levels, promotion can be time bound, but beyond that, it has to be selection based, based on performance and things like that. And this can be done at they are doing, at the joint secretary empanelment, additional secretary empanelment and all. There's an empanelment process, there's a selection process and things like that. In fact, with this government, they have made one more change. What they have done is they are considering more central services also. Normally, additional secretaries and all will be like, from IAS and like that. But now even other central services have got a chance. But the fact is that in their own batch, they get promoted automatically. And at the state level also, they get promoted. Only when they come for central, empanelment, probably they may get selected and like that. So, but then I feel that at each stage, there has to be a filtration. It cannot be an automatic promotion. Sometimes I used to say jokingly, what they have to do, they will suppose promote the bottommost guy, which means you have to promote everybody above him. That's the sort of the way it works in government. Yeah. This is a beautiful system. They work for themselves, and then it's working perfectly well for them. But people want to know what are they getting out of that, and structural reform. So there's always a cadre fitment they keep doing. There was a time in a state you will have only, one one chief secretary, one DGP or IG. In fact, we had only one IG. Now it became DGP. Now we have so many additional DGPs, additional chief secretaries, and the special secretaries at central level. So they keep on creating, and then similarly in income tax, similarly in customs and all that. It's all fine because maybe the role, ideally government will be top heavy because more policy orientation and more less execution. Execution can be in fact automated, whatever the government is doing. But the point is, people want performance. And I would say create more functional, if you see certain services, they'll say, let's say DCP, north, south, east, west, and then they found four more direction, north, east, southwest, east, west, like that. Okay. So, but then you need to create more functional roles where they can really play a role. And rigid state. See, one interesting thing and beautiful thing that our constitution people thought of is people posting outside their state, because that has really ensured, the sort of some bureaucracy that you see now, the honesty and integrity that we see now. Had they been from their home state, I don't know how things could have been. But I still feel that there can be interstate exchanges. Somebody wants to go, they can do. And I also recommended to the last pay commission, that even central services people can get posted. Let's say a revenue service officer can get posted in a state government, in a PSU or in a municipal corporation on deputation and come back, because then they get a field experience. In fact, I said post all the audit and account service in one field job. Then they will know what's a field problem, and they'll have more appreciation for the field problem when they do the auditing and like that, And for the engineering services, you'll be surprised. I made this point in the last pay commission. If you take the railway ministry, somebody may start as let's say assistant engineer electrical, then he will retire as member electrical. Now they have changed some designations last 5 years or maybe 7-8 years. Can you imagine in the L&T, suppose somebody will be called member civil, member electrical, member signal, okay, then member. You are just board member there, isn't it? In any board, if you look at it, excepting there'll be one guy who will be, maybe an engineering guy, or one guy who could be a finance guy, CFOs like that. But here, whatever they start, they continue because each service has to be represented. I say that beyond DRM level, it's all general management. You are not really doing the operational work and like that. Okay. I think some of these things is happening now. But I think you want to say something?
The first week of somebody joining service, they know exactly all these levels. This. It will be like at the back of their hand, but they may not know exactly what their job role is, but they'll know what the ranks are.
Right. It's like your Kundalini. Okay, your horoscope is made once you join. Then when is Saturn coming, when is Shukra coming and things like that. They can reasonably predict when you will get promoted. In your batch, who will become who has got a chance to become chief secretary or secretary, because the topper of the batch and all those things are all there, unless somebody really mucks it up and like that. So next place. So structural reforms are required. This is what I said. Next generation reforms, they have to focus on bureaucratic reform. But that's again like a collegium. They have to really decide their own reform. So you need an external push, isn't it?
Yeah.
And see, last time 60 pay commission, they asked IIM to come up with a format for IIM Ahmedabad to come up with a format for evaluation. I would say each service, how you would like to be evaluated, what is your benchmark, and what's the productivity you are offering, and like that. And they can specify what will be the process and competency dimensions. During Manmohan Singh time, it started. Now it also continued. They started rigorous training program, and a lot of people started going abroad. Then that was cut down. But I would still say that they need continuous training program also. In fact, once I gave a complete map to the Ministry of Urban Development. For example, today, if an assistant engineer in a municipality becomes deputy engineer becomes chief engineer. These people, they were earlier managing 10 crore project. Today they are managing 1,000 crore project. Capacity doesn't exist in government to even visualize project, make a project for 1,000 crore, 10,000. I'm not talking about state government. If you talk about state government, is even worse. This is about central government, which is still better. But state government is even poor. I said you need to have the training program before they take up the next role and like that. In fact, I once did a program for civil engineers dealing with large projects. And when I presented the project management tool, they were listening to it like a breaking story. Oh, sir, this is really beautiful. We never know, it can be done like that. But whereas all their vendors are following, but these guys don't even know that they can do that. Okay. So during the previous government, they had the MOU. The secretaries will sign an MOU, the ministry and all. That got dropped about the performance parameters for the ministry and all that. And there used to be an ad hoc committee of the cabinet. In fact, I used to be a member of that committee also. But something has to be thought of where a secretary or the ministry commits to a certain level of performance, Or, there are, of course, if you see, they keep ranking the performances at state level, the collectorate, SPs, and like that. That has to be tightened, and that has to get factored into the performance of the collector and SP, so that an accountability is created. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, this is the final one, I think. So you need to have some evaluation, maybe once in 2 years, 3 years. Retired secretaries can evaluate, because they always ask the question, how can a citizen evaluate us? How can an academician evaluate us like that? Okay, then you have your own seniors to evaluate, retired secretaries who can be independent, and then have a score for them, and that should really determine how they progress and like that, And it can be on a blind review. The secretaries need not even know who is the officer they are evaluating and like that, so that you get a very fair assessment. Today it's like themselves, they evaluate, then the bosses, then the bosses like that. So that's not really impactful, and that doesn't create the accountability that is really required at the larger level. So this is what I wanted to really share with your viewers. And finally, what they can say is that they can appoint or ask on a compensation committee. See, in 1980s, when I was in IIM Ahmedabad, the salary difference between a probationer and a guy who finishes MBA, joined private sector, was not so much. For example, if in government they were getting about 1,200, 1,500 maybe the starting, if you finish MBA and join a private sector. But today the gap is more. This is the last point I would like to make. What's happening is that if you look at teachers, nurses and all, or at that lower level, they get paid more than probably what's paid in the private sector, whether it is colleges or schools or hospitals and municipal services and like that. As you move up the cadre, secretaries level, that it tapers, the salary tapers there, and that makes it meaningless. See, there's a formula they used to follow.
There's no incentive to take a promotion or aim for a promotion, is what you're saying.
No, promotion they will take in the sense that pension may depend on that, your perks will depend on that, you may be more eligible for a bigger house and things like that. But the point is, you are actually teasing, I would say, the salaries that you are paying. Okay, so because of the socialism, I think the pay commission had this rule. I don't know if they still follow this. That is, the salary of the secretary cannot be more than some multiples of peon. Let's say it should not be more than 8 times, which means like 8 peons equal to 1 secretary, 7 peon equal to 1 additional secretary, like that. That's ridiculous. Okay, so because private sector compensation is not like that, so I would say that pay near about market compensation, but ask for near about market performance. That's what is really required. And these are all certain, legacies that we carry. And there are other countries who paid reasonably well, the bureaucracy and all that, and at least they don't suffer. But today, you cannot go and buy a 3 BHK. That be the status of these offices if you have to really take buy a home loan and buy EMIs and things like that. So there has to be certain level of incentivizing the top management so that they're really motivated to drive the ministry and like that. Yeah. Now, I would like your feedback. What do you feel about this? Because this is something that really bothers my mind, and I've been trying to impress people for many years.
First question, sir. Historically, I have a question for you. Is
Yeah,
it
please.
true that when the British left and the ICS, at that time it was the ICS, everybody's salary was cut by like half or 50% or 60%? Is it true?
Not sure. Sorry, I mean, I'm not this database.
I believe that
But one thing I can tell you.
Sir, the Gora who was sitting in a secretary level, he got a certain salary, and the brownie who gave there, big cut.
That will be there. But one thing I know for sure is that all those ICS officers and all, they really position themselves well, because suddenly there are too many vacancies and too less officers. So there are faster promotions, and then they could really move up faster and like that, you know. So initially they got positioned very well. Then once we transitioned, because they all left, the Goras all left, it was left field was left wide open to these people, and they were just substituted by the ICS. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, and of course, if you see,
what I heard was forget about promotion. That I agree, because there is a gap momentarily there will be a huge gap. But what I'm saying is the salary structure itself got cut by 50%, is what I heard.
It will be there. See, for all that, we might have been getting paid in rupees, and they might have been getting paid in pounds and things like that, isn't it? And so that's quite possible. But they had good perks, and then other things taken care of. I mean, each collector office of the British time, you should see, those are all really forts, if you see, where they lived and like that. And most of them were Englishmen. Only later it became truly Indian civil service, isn't it?
Manav-san wants to know, what useful practices can we see from other countries' government to apply for improved performance among Indian public? Are there any particular countries whose practices stand out?
Yeah. 2-3 things. One is, if you see US and even Canada, for example, there's a later entry. There's a revolving door that happens in US. And at least at the top level, this government tried it, but they couldn't replicate it. They tried 3-4 offices, but at JS level, but it didn't get replicated. But I gave one suggestion to DOPT. My suggestion was that within the service, you have a challenge round. Suppose there's a special post, you ask your own officers to compete for that, because now in government, if you see, at least 10% of them would have done PhDs. Because they've got a lot of time, they keep doing these PhDs and other programs. Many of them got multiple degrees, so they are quite qualified. And one is, you create a challenge round within themselves and make it competitive among themselves, so that they get some special postings, special things like that. Second, for example, let's say you create a PPP, let's say Bangalore Metro. To become MD of Metro, you say who is eligible, conduct interviews, and it's not like a simple transfer postings you do. Second thing I would say is that globally, no country can beat Singapore, the way they treat the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats are almost their compensation almost at par with private sector. And for example, if you are let's say the CMD of PSU, you're almost like a ministerial rank. Okay, that's the sort of privilege you get. So, and there is seen to be a big status. Even here, if you are an MD of SBI, it's a big thing. If you're a CMD or SBI and things like that, that status itself is very different. So that is there. So another thing I would say is that all said and done, the gap, if you look at, suppose even the National Health Service I've seen Canadian Health Service, and even Canadian administration and all, the gap is not so much. The service delivery is good. There's a basic courtesies and things like that, the way it's done. But in India, at least at state level, it's still found wanting. The service orientation, citizen orientation can be better, should be improved. There can be lateral entries, at the top level. For example, what happens is that today, if you are really making a policy on certain thing, capacity within the government may not exist to manage it like that. So for those areas, you will need a huge, like for example, 𝗏𝗍𝗍 is there. That's the electronic industry like that. Maybe you need outsiders for such industries, even defense, some of those. And then, maybe guys can go out and come back and think, sort of revolving door at certain levels can be there. But the point is, internally, there has to be churn. Sorry. Yeah.
Desi Stand wants to know, I thought Yogi Ji in Uttar Pradesh had implemented performance-based promotions. Am I mistaken?
performance-based recognition is there. I don't know if promotions are there. Matlab, they get special recognition. But what I can say is that beauty of Yogi Ji is that within the same bureaucracy, which was earlier managed by Mayawati Ji and Akhilesh Ji and like that, he has made them deliver. Okay, I have seen in certain sector how they perform. Definitely, performance today is markedly different from what it used to be and like that. And within the same bureaucracy, only is delivering. But the fact is that system has not changed. System is still the same. But within that, probably by placing some good people in good positions and all, he is able to do. But I don't think even he is able to really change the system. That would require a structural change. And another problem with this central services, all India services, that it's a federal setup. So all states have to agree, and it's a big thing. That's why probably no government is touching it. But then the central services are within the powers of the central government to modify. So I think they should come up with certain, design changes. And like what you call organizational design, isn't it? OD intervention is definitely required. And definitely is required if you want like 10 trillion and beyond and like that. This can take you to 5, 6, 7, 8 like that. That's all, not leaps.
Thank you so much, sir. Very interesting discussion and a lot of information. And there is much, much more that can be done. Also, sure. I heard that the rate at which the recruitment has been happening into the central government as well as state government has come down drastically. So I'm amused when some clowns who want to become chief ministers say that they'll get one job per family in government service. There are no jobs, idiot.
That's a typical in Bihar. Sarkari Naukri has got a great premium. Okay. Second thing is, even this government also, when they announce we'll create 10 lakh employment, 1 crore employment and all, they should never see government as the source of employment. They should create job opportunities. They should not create jobs, government. They should create opportunities. That's why I would really tell this government also, even including central government, BJP government, I'll tell this. But what this guy has said is bizarre. I mean, you don't have so many, then go.
The guy doesn't know. Somebody like Prashant Kishore would have told him, just promise one job in government per family. That resonates well, so people will just vote for you. Sir, these are all profligate, good for nothing children who have become, thanks to nepotism, they have become, the leaders of the party, don't know anything, have never had real life experience, haven't done a job in their lives, haven't earned their paycheck. And these are the people who want to lead the country into the next generation. God only save us, sir. Thank you so much.
Study. Next time I'll present on dynasty politics and how it's really impacting the democracy. This is the latest interest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.